The Nickelodeon Slimecast Podcast is brought to you by the reopened Nickelodeon Studios in Orlando, Florida Facebook page, and is produced by Patricia Miranda from oldschoollane.blogspot.com. Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Nickelodeon Slimecast Podcast. I'm Patricia and I'm here with Admin James.
Here.
So it is going to be our last podcast for 2016. We're going to be discussing about some bits of news right before the new year begins. And I guess we can start things off with, some updates of the last bit of news that we were talking about a few weeks ago regarding about that Universal Studios will be doing will be having attractions based off of Nintendo characters. And so, yeah, there's been a lot of updates regarding about that. Shigeru Miyamoto was visiting around Universal Studios in Japan, and they were talking about, various things. The planned attraction is called Super Nintendo World, and is planning to be opening at Universal Studios Japan in the year 2020. As for if it's going to be in Florida or California, it is still yet to be determined.
It sounds like a great idea. It sounds like an interesting idea. I think it would be a way in which Universal could try something new, and it would probably help attract more customers than it already has. I'm not saying it doesn't have enough, but to triple it.
Yeah, speaking of Nintendo, if you guys listened to the most recent episode of the Nickelodeon Animation Podcast, Fred Seibert was there as a special guest, and he was discussing about how Frederator Studios might executive produce an animated film or animated series based off of a Nintendo franchise. He didn't say which one, he just hinted at, it could be one that's about 30 years old, and he just left it at that. So, this is actually really interesting that, not only is there possibly going to be an animated film or an animated series based off of a Nintendo franchise, but it's going to be done possibly by Frederator. So what do you think about that?
I think that actually sounds exciting. I'm not sure what it will be, but, I think it may be either Mario or Sonic. They are already making a Sonic movie, by the way.
Yeah, well, Sonic is still owned by Sega, so most likely it won't be Sonic. But it could be Mario. Anyway, I'm pulling up this article right now from Gizmodo.com, and there's a person who is guessing that maybe it could be a Castlevania series. What do you think about that? Frederator and Castlevania.
I think it would actually be great. We haven't had anything based off of Castlevania for a while, so what better way to renew interest than make a series about it?
Yeah, I mean, the last time that we had an animated adaptation based off of Castlevania was back with Captain N the Game Master with Simon Belmont, and he was this foppish character who acted like a coward. So it would be really interesting. I mean, Frederator Studios is known for having, funny animation, a lot of, colorful settings and goofy characters, so it would be really interesting to see them tackle in something as dark, moody, and atmospheric as Castlevania. Now, it's a hypothetical article. If you want to go check it out, I'll leave a link in the description box below. But which Castlevania game would they base off the animated series on? I mean, James, how well knowledge are you with the Castlevania games?
Not that much. I think I've only played one or two of them. But from what I remember, it was pretty fun. But I just haven't played them in a long time,
Okay, well, basically with each Castlevania game, there's been a lot of, main occurring characters. It has a really long, deep timeline, spanning hundreds and hundreds of years, featuring a different Belmont. Depending on what time period and depending on what game, it'll be interesting to see which one they're willing to tackle. I mean, if they want to cater to more of the old school fans, then they'll probably do a Castlevania series based off of Simon or Trevor, because, Simon was the first character featured in Castlevania in the NES, and Trevor was in Castlevania 3, and he's always been a really popular character. If they want to go for more of more of the Metroidvania style, then they could probably have maybe Richter, or maybe they'll even go in a different direction as to say, hey, why don't we focus on Alucard? if they want to go for the handheld, I mean, I'm sure for a lot of people who love playing the handheld Castlevania games for the GBA, they'll probably say, why don't we have Soma be the focus? Soma Cruz, who's actually not from the Belmont clan. He's actually a really important character if you find out what the twist is, but he's actually, he actually has a really good backstory, and he's a really fleshed out character because he was featured in 2 games. If they do want to focus on a Belmont with those handheld games, it will be so awesome if they focus on Julius Belmont, because he was the last of the, he's the most recent of the descendants of the Belmonts featured in the Castlevania games, because he defeated Dracula in 1999 during the time of the apocalypse, and it was never explained on what happened during that time. How did he defeat Dracula? So it would be nice to see what the story folds with that. Or, if you want to go for the more recent Castlevania games, like the ones that came out for the PS3, like Castlevania Lords of Shadow, then I guess it'll have to be Gabriel. But at this point in time, Konami hasn't really done a lot with Castlevania lately. I mean, I know they did the 3DS game, and there's this Pachinko game, but other than that, it would be really interesting. So, I thought maybe we could play a little game, James. I want you to name 3 Nintendo franchises that you would like to see either an animated series or film on, and who do you think would be a perfect creator to do it? Whether it be a creator from the past, or maybe the most recent, creators we've been having on TV.
Mario. I know that there's been several Mario series before, but maybe I would personally like to see Craig take on the franchise.
Based off of which game? Would you like it based off of, like, the more recent 3D games, the Galaxy games? What would you like to see?
Galaxy games.
The Galaxy games. Oh, that'd be really interesting. Okay, and who would you like to see create it?
Craig McCracken.
Oh, that's a really interesting idea. Yeah, I can see that, because, with the colorful different galaxies, and he can definitely build up on Rosalina's backstory, because he's always been really good with creating female characters, and, I could definitely see that, and maybe he could do something fun with Captain Toad and the rest of the Toads, and, traveling through different galaxies maybe every single episode, and meeting up with all the characters that are there. That should be really interesting. Okay, what's your second one?
My second would be Zelda.
Okay, Zelda. Good choice. We already had a Zelda animated series, but, I mean, even though that was based off of the first 2 Zelda games, what would you like to see? I mean, and, now since then, there's been a whole bunch of Zelda games. What Zelda would you like to see adapted?
Which? Ocarina of Time.
Of course, that's like the most popular one. All right, who would you like to see created?
But to put on their own spin on it, I would like Paul Dini to do it.
Paul Dini, wow, that's interesting. I mean, Paul Dini has been known for writing a lot of, cartoons, as well as, a lot of DC stuff. So, yeah, Paul Dini, kind of maybe flesh out the villains more, like, the way that he was able to reinvent, he and Bruce Timm were able to reinvent the Batman villains from Batman the Animated Series, like Mr. Freeze, and even create Harley Quinn. I would love to see their take on it. Maybe kind of flesh out more of Ganon's story. Maybe kind of tell the story about how Zelda decided to go into the persona of Sheik. The struggles of Link when he went from his childhood to 7 years into the future, trying to save what Ganon destroyed in Hyrule. That could be interesting. I would, because, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time has a kid element and an adult element, and because Batman is known for being, like, really dark, but at the same time have a lot of lighthearted moments, yeah, I could definitely see that. All right, last one. What do you think? Last Nintendo franchise.
Let me think about that.
All right. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna see if I can think of something. All right. I would like to see a Metroid franchise. The person I would love to see created, Greg Weisman. I think that Greg Weisman, the way he was able to create, fleshed out worlds and characters with Young Justice and Gargoyles, I would love to see him do his own spin on it. There's very limited characters in Metroid. You only have Samus. You do run into the occasional villains as well as the occasional bounty hunters, but I think that Greg Weisman can be able to write a character like Samus very well, kind of like bring up her backstory. The backstory has been told in the manga, but when they have tried to implement her backstory like in Other M, it turned out to be a disaster. So I think somebody like Greg Weisman could do a really good job with doing something like Metroid. My second choice, let's see. There's already been Mario, Zelda, Kirby, Donkey Kong. You know, it'd be really cool if maybe now... I mean, I really loved the idea of Captain N, the Game Master. I would love to see a remake of that, except that with the more recent Nintendo characters. Like, you know, it's kind of like how Smash was able to bring all these characters together. I mean, I really kind of liked the Spaceship Emissary, which, you know, it had kind of like a simple story, but you were able to see all these characters work together. You know, seeing characters like, you know, Mario and Link and Samus and Zelda, and even introduce characters like Pit and Marth and Roy, and, you know, a whole bunch of those other characters. I would like to see a remake of Captain N the Game Master, except better and with more recent Nintendo characters. Who would be good for that? Let me think. You know what? I'm probably going to be a little bit crazy about this, but I mean, if we're going to have a huge world with all these characters and there's endless possibilities, I am thinking maybe I would like to see Alex Hirsch tackle this. Alex Hirsch did a really good job with Gravity Falls, bringing in a lot of mystery, having a bunch of fleshed out characters, and having these huge, expansive worlds, and, you know, having great villains. So I'm thinking that maybe Alex can be able to tackle in a remake of Captain N, maybe having like a character... Kevin was kind of like a dork, but I would love to see a new Captain N, you know, hold in the realm of exploring these worlds. And maybe, you know, somebody who's knowledgeable of video games, similar to how Kevin was, but, you know, like more knowledgeable about it, and, you know, just not constantly, you know, having this whole Deus Ex Machina thing about just using the pause button and then using the NES Zapper to basically just destroy everything. Although, about who would be the villain? I mean, Mother Brain was the main villain of Captain N, but oh my god, the voice. It is like nails on a chalkboard. I would love it if maybe, you know, similar to Kingdom Hearts, they would have like a bunch of like mini villains, and then they would have like this grand villain in the end. I don't know who would be the main villain who can be able to control it all. I mean, maybe, I don't know about Mother Brain, but then again, she was ruined in Other M, but I don't know. I mean, maybe Bowser and Ganondorf, similar to how it was in Brawl, but I'm not sure. I have to think that over. Anyway, James, were you able to think of your last one?
Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem! Ooh, nice one. Yeah, definitely a good opportunity, because Fire Emblem has gotten a lot more popular over the years. You know, ever since Awakening became a massive hit, and then the Fire Emblem Fates as well. So, yeah, that would be really interesting. Which game, though?
Which Fire Emblem game will I like it based on? Let me think about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of them.
Fire Emblem Fates.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense because it is the newest one. So, who would you like to see create it? Somebody who's good with fantasy.
The creative staff versus the Forces of Evil.
Okay. Yeah, that should be interesting. I mean, Star vs. the Forces of Evil does have a lot of fun elements to it, as you do when you have a character and they're trying to build relationships with one another, just like in Awakening and Fates. And it also has action moments, as you do. But which version would it be? I mean, since it is going to be most likely for kids, I'll probably have to do, like, you know, probably the more easier version, like, you know, a character doesn't die immediately and then they switch over to a new character. So I don't think that's ever going to happen, for a kid's show, unless they can be able to pull it off like Korra can. So yeah, good choices. My last one. Okay, if I am going to see a Castlevania series, I would like for it to be based on... Oh man, that's going to be really tough. What do I like to see it based on? Because, I love Super Castlevania 4, which is basically a remake of the original game. But I also love Symphony of the Night. But then you can't have Symphony of the Night without Castlevania Rondo of Blood. But then a lot of people really did like, Aria of Sorrow and Dawn of Sorrow. But I'm sure that most people will probably nowadays know it as Lords of Shadow. Okay, so if I were... Okay, so Castlevania, I would love it to be based off of... Well, if we want to have it a simple way, like, for people to get introduced to it, base it off of Super Castlevania 4, and somebody who's really good with, like, gothic animation. The only person I can think of is Jonan Vasquez, the way that he does Zim, but not in a... I want the aesthetics of the series. I don't want it to be, like, really dark, like really creepy dark. Like the way that Zim was, in which it was, like, borderline creepy, but, in a way that can be able to bring up the atmosphere, like a horror movie or something. Or maybe then again, because, Gendy Tartakovsky did Hotel Transylvania, so maybe he can do it as well. And he's also doing Samurai Jack again, so maybe he can also do a Castlevania series. That would be kind of interesting. All right. Okay, so let's get into some other news. Unfortunately, we have to go into a little sad note because just recently, Carrie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds had passed away. For those who don't know, Carrie Fisher, who was the actress behind Princess Leia, as well as a lot of other films, and Debbie Reynolds as well. She was in Singing in the Rain and a whole bunch of other films. I'm sure for a lot of the younger generation, they may know her as the voice of Lulu Pickles from Rugrats, as well as the grandmother witch from Halloween Town on the Disney original movies. So yeah, it's really sad that both of them passed away just one day after another. It's really depressing.
Yeah, I agree. It really shocked me when I found out the first time. I was really, really depressed when I found out. I'm already depressed. I think you can guess why. But that actually furthered my depression because they both really made an impact on my life through their movies and have helped inspire me.
Yeah, it is really sad. Just this year alone, we lost a lot of voice actors from Rugrats. There was Joel Lasky, Ron Glass, the guy who voiced his Stu Pickles, and now Debbie. So yeah, it's pretty sad.
Yeah, this year's been bad enough, but the fact that so many Rugrats voice actors and actresses have passed away is really sad. And it really devastated me because I love that show, and Stu, Lulu, and Randy were actually some of my favorite characters, and it really broke my heart when I found out that they passed away.
Yeah, it's really saddening. Anyway, but all right, so let's go into a little bit more happier news. So this actually just came in just recently. This was actually posted on the MTV blog yesterday. So there's this kind of like a funny article where Drake Bell was posting a YouTube video about how his dad, Walter, is missing in San Diego, and they need to find him. And then there's this like hashtag, where's Walter? So yeah, I think this is part of the fact that Drake and Josh are doing a project together, and a lot of people are thinking that, because of this, maybe it's the Drake and Josh reunion movie that they've been wanting to see for a long time. So, yeah, this is pretty interesting that, now there's this YouTube thing going on about, Walter is missing in San Diego. If you find him, hashtag where's Walter? So, yeah, what do you think about that?
I think it could be interesting, I guess. It's I'm not a big fan of Drake and Josh as I am of Kenan and Kel, but I've actually rediscovered it since it went off the air. And I actually think it's really, really funny. And I'd love to see it come back. I mean, Drake and Josh was one of the funniest Nicktoons of all time, and not Nicktoons. I mean, like one of the best Nick-coms.
Yeah, Nick-coms. It's funny because the Nostalgia Critic was the one who came up with that term. I was surprised that Nickelodeon hasn't came up with it yet.
Me too.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting that this was a way to... This is kind of like a new way to create buzz for, Drake and Josh to come back again. Because, I mean, we've had instances in which we've had, like, various Nickelodeon reunions. And, some of them have worked out, like the most recent Double Dare reunions. But, some of them, like Zoe 101, just seem to have came and went really quickly. So, this should be really interesting about where this leads up to. Does it lead up to a possible Drake and Josh TV movie? Does it lead up to a reunion? I have no idea, so we'll just have to keep you posted on that. Okay, so the last time that we were on the podcast, we did discuss about the Legends of the Hidden Temple TV movie, and we discussed about the Double Dare reunion. And we hinted at, we were going to be talking about the Albert TV movie. That's the newest Christmas movie that aired. So, James, have you seen it?
Albert? No, I actually haven't had a chance to see it yet.
Okay. Well, I had a chance to see it, and I guess I can give my quick opinion about it. So, I thought it was better than I thought it was going to be. It was really cute. It had a lot of sweet moments. There were some jokes that kind of fell flat to me, but other than that, it was a very sweet story. It's about a little tree who wants to become the big tree of the city, and he makes this huge road trip with a plant and a weed, and along the way they meet up with this cactus who wants to take them down because he hates Christmas. Because he's a cactus, he gets replaced by the Christmas tree inside, and he pretty much just gets shafted. So he wants to take revenge on the Christmas tree of the big city that everybody's going crazy over. And yeah, it's really nice. The songs are okay. Not a lot of them really stick to the top of my head, but the animation's really nice and the story's really cute. It's a really nice Christmas special. It's still available on iTunes if you want to purchase it. I think that maybe they'll air it again, maybe next year. I don't know, but we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, speaking of next year, there's been an announcement about the stuff that is coming up for 2017, and we already discussed about that in the Nick Upfront. And, there's some others that we didn't discuss about. But what is the most excited thing that you're wanting to see for Nickelodeon in 2017?
Hey Arnold Jungle movie.
Yeah, me too. That's the one thing I really want to see coming up next year. And, I mean, I can't believe it. It's actually happening. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to when it comes out in November 2017. I'm counting the days. So, let's see if there's anything else that I can look up on. Because right now it's just been a pretty slow day. It's been pretty slow, considering that it is, the holidays, and I guess everybody is just focusing on other things. So, yeah, I think that for the most part that's it. So, do you have any New Year's resolutions, James?
To try and keep myself safe in this time of need.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. As for me, yeah, I mean, we just have to hang in there. That's all I can say about it. We have to hang in strong, and hopefully that things continue to do very well. Unfortunately, for Nickelodeon, I mean, it's a shame that, coming next year will be the series finale of Harvey Beaks, which is a shame because it would have been so nice for it to continue on, but, Nickelodeon just really didn't see it as a huge hit compared to Loud House, which, speaking of which, both Loud House and Harvey Beaks had their Christmas specials. Did you see either of them?
No, I've been too preoccupied with a couple of things.
Other than that, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I really don't have much to say about it that we hadn't said in other podcasts. So I guess that should be it for this podcast. I hope that you guys have yourselves a happy new year and, continue to stay strong and, we'll be able to pull ourselves through, and we hope to see you in 2017. So have a good one.